The Station Edition is an easy way for any user who has access to a shared computer, like in the fire station, to create and share simulations. This video shows a couple different uses and configurations for the Station Edition. The three examples that I'm going to go over are the first one, where each user has their own set of folders they can do with whatever they want. And then the second and third, where you create a common set of folders where simulations can be placed and distributed across the whole department in every station. They can either be marked as play only, or they can be marked for editing to allow the most flexibility. My first example is how SimsUshare comes out of the box. Essentially, like each user has their own copy of SimsUshare. There is no organized way of sharing simulations or folders. It's completely up to the user. In the Station Edition, you'll notice that the graphic is different from the regular SimsUshare program, but otherwise the operation is identical. New, edit, play. You create simulations in your main sim folder and edit and play them. You have your list, your scrolly list, and just normal operations. If you want to change the main sim folder, essentially where your simulations are stored, you can go in the menu here and say change main sim folder, and then go and select the folder that you want to store your simulations in. If you wanted to actually share folders, each user has to designate which folder has to be shared. In the next examples, we're going to show how you can configure it to make each user see special folders for sharing. Let's say that you have the Station Edition set up across all your stations, and you want to create a common set of simulations to use for, say, a monthly training, but you don't want each user to be able to change the simulations that other people will see. Each user can change his or her own simulations, but the common set stays the same. Those are play-only simulations. This is how you do it. We're going to first look to see what would be like from the station to see these set of play-only simulations. Well, essentially what I do is I open my SimsUshare. Let's say I'm in my station. If I go to play, I'll see here my own simulations, and I'll see here April training topics, play only. So that tells me that these simulations here I only can play. I can't edit them. If I actually go and try and edit them, so I go back in here, edit, tells me play only, I don't get the edit button. I can't edit those simulations. I can copy them into my main simulation folder with this copy to button, but I can't edit them in that common folder. Let's see what it would look like on you the training officer's computer, though, because you want to put stuff into the April training topics folder, and you should allow yourself to do that. We've seen the perspective from the individual user at the station. Now let's take a look at the training officer's login or the training officer's computer. In here, IT has configured it such that those play-only folders are now not marked play-only. Now you can actually go and edit the simulation as you like. You can also move things into and out of any of the folders, just a regular way that any user could do that with their own set of folders, by essentially clicking on it. If you want to copy, let's say, RB side A into one of the other folders, you copy sim into whichever folder you want, hit OK, give it a name, and then it goes into there. Now on the station computers, they would see RB side A in the March training topics as play only. Now, so this gives you the ability to edit your simulations, but the stations can only see the things that, and can only play the simulations that are in those play-only folders. Let's see now how to configure this from the IT perspective. To make this configuration happen, we need two sets of configuration files. The first one is a configuration file that applies to all the users on the computer, and that's the one that's going to set the play-only status of whichever folders that you choose. Now, if you want to have users who can actually write into those folders, then that individual user can create a file to override the settings of play only. So we're going to take a look at both the all users configuration and then individual users configuration. We're going to first look at the configuration file that applies to all the users. So wherever you installed the SimsUshare Station Edition, maybe in a network folder, you're going to open that up and you'll see there's the executable. Inside here is a folder called config. If we open up config, and now you'll see there's a simfolders XML file. If I edit this file, and with Notepad or any XML editor that you'd like, you'll see here this is now the settings that are going to apply to all users on this computer. It's going to basically say sim folder, title, April training topics, and we're going to get a path or the direction to where our April sims are. But notice the last piece here says play only equals true. That tells SimsUshare for all the users, make this simulation folder play only. If I did not have this play only equals true, then that simulation folder would be editable and playable by anyone who can access the program. So this makes it the play only. Let's see now for the individual training officer, for your situation, how we override this setting. Now on the training officer's computer, the person who needs to edit simulations that go into those monthly topics, you'll see that we have it set up so we have the training officer's main sim folder, and then here's a March training topics and an April training topics. At this point, these scenarios are not play only. They can be edited, they can be renamed, deleted, etc. So now, if on this computer all users make the April training topics that we did before play only, how is it that the training officer right now has it editable? And the answer is that the secondary configuration file for the training officer, which is located in the training officer's main sim folder. In my situation, it's Jonathan Documents SimsUshare. If I go in here, I'll see that there is a new folder that I made called config. And inside the config folder, there is the simfolders XML. So this is now on the training officer's documents in the main sim folder for the training officer. If I look inside at what this file says, you'll see now that it actually has the March training topics and the April training topics. But I'll move this over here. You'll notice there is no play only equals true like we saw in the configuration file for all users. So when we don't have play only equals true, then for this training officer, this folder will be allowed, the simulations in the folder can be edited or played. So that's how that the training officer's main sim folder overrides the settings for all users on the computer. Now you've seen the mechanics for marking simulation folders either as editable or as play only. So imagine the situation that you've got your monthly topics at each station in play only simulation. Each station is given their own editable folder so that each user can copy the simulations they want into their common station folder. And that way it can get sent back to you, you can make tweaks, and then you can drop it into other monthly topic folders. We're going to see what that might look like. Let's imagine we're a user at a not training officer at Station 1. Let me look at my folders. What I have here is I have my main sim folder, the simulations I made. I have the common April training topics that are play only. And then the configuration has been set up so that there's a Station 1 Sims common folder. And so this is a folder essentially where anyone at Station 1 can contribute their own simulations and edit. And this way, back at the training officer's computer or the training officer's profile, the training officer can then select the ones that he or she wants and make them part of the monthly topic. So I can actually go here in my common simulations and edit them. My simulations again are private for each user. So my simulations are private. This April training topics is a play only, and the common Station 1 Sims is an editable folder that's on either on this computer or on a shared network that any user in Station 1 at this computer can edit, modify, and play. Let's take a look at the training officer's version of this. Let's say that this department has 3 stations. So the training officer wants to put out monthly topics to all the stations, but also each station has its own common simulation folder. So at the training officer's login or at the training officer's computer, the configuration is set up to have the training officer's main simulation folder, which has the private ones. It has March training topics, April training topics, and then here common station simulation, common station 1 sims, common station 2 sims, common station 3. And we can see here, looking at the different stations, they each have their own edits of the common folders, which had been copied from their play only folder. The April training topics were only play only. They've been copied into their common area, and then they've done their edits. So at this point, if I liked, let's say I like this Strip Mall Lakes from station 2, I could take this and then copy it into, let's say, make that part of my April training topics. So what I'm doing is taking station 2's simulation they made and copying it into the common across the whole department folder that is still just play only. So I'm going to call it Strip Mall Lakes, and now all the other stations, when they log in and run the program, will now see Strip Mall Lakes as part of the April training topics as a play only simulation. Let's take a look at what the configuration files look like for these setups. Now we're over at Station 1's computer, wherever the SimsUshare program is installed. We look into the config folder here, and there's our sim folders XML, and if we open that up and take a look, we'll see here that we have the April training topics with the path and play only equals true, so that's only going to be a playable simulation folder. And then we made our own common station 1 sims, which is to our own station 1 sims Dropbox folder that does not have just play only. So that's how we would configure station 1 for all users. Now what we're going to do is take a look at the training officer, what that person's computer would look like, that login. Finally, the last step is to take a look at the training officer's configuration file to see how the training officer can access all of the common folders. Inside the training officer's main simulation folder, here in Documents and SimsUshare, there is the config folder, and then inside that is sim folders. If I open this and take a look at it, now we'll see here that it has the March training topics, it has April training topics. Now it's broken over this line here only because of the wrapping. If I actually see, there is no space. You don't want to have any spaces when you're telling it what the path name is. It just happens because I'm sizing this window that it's wrapping it. But you'll see over here that April training topics, and then common station 1 sims path to station 1 sims, station 2 sims, station 3 sims. So the training officer has to make this configuration, but once the configuration is done with all the stations, it becomes easy for the training officer to copy sims into the appropriate folders and copy them out. That concludes how we're actually using the Station Edition in several example uses. Please contact us if you have questions or need more examples.